Okay, on question 18, the first thing that I notice about it that should stick out to you right away is that there's 4 terms. So this was the second method that we learned yesterday called factor by grouping. The first thing you have to do in factor by grouping is to split it down the middle. And it's just kind of an imaginary split. So once you get this split up, then you're going to look at each half as kind of almost a separate problem. And you're going to factor each half. So 2m cubed and 4m squared. When I'm looking at both of these, I know 2 goes into both numbers. And then this has 3 m's and this has 2 m's. So that means they both have at least 2. So then that's the greatest common factor, if you remember what that's called. And then I basically divide by that greatest common factor to see what's left over. So this would be 1m1, and then the plus sign. This would be 2, and then no m's. And now I take a look at the second half of the problem as its own separate thing. And I'm looking at a 6m and a 12. Obviously they don't have any letters in common because this one doesn't have one. And then from a 6 and a 12, I know that 6 goes into both of them. So that's going to be the biggest number that goes into both. I'll kind of follow that plus sign down. And if I divide both by 6, I'd get 1m and then 2. And you'll know if you do these problems correct because these two parentheses have the same info. And that's kind of what greatest common factor was. Greatest common factor was what things do they both have the same being multiplied. And since both halves, because that's how we're looking at it, first half, second half, since both halves have this same multiplier, I put that first as the common thing, and then the second parentheses is kind of what's left over. So that and that would be left over. And so I'd write that in the second parentheses. Now, I'm wondering if some of you did this problem, and now that I have this up here, I didn't take a look at the answer key to see how far they went. I'm wondering if the answer key wrote the answer like this. If so, that's kind of a cheap way to do it. Is that what happened on the answer key? Okay, I'm trying to remember who asked this question. Okay. I got it. So that might have been where I got confused from. Both those answers are correct. I'm not going to worry about it for right now. Got it. I didn't even think of that, to be honest. I didn't even think of that. So this is this is what's known as fully factored. And it's not something I want you guys to worry about. This is what we're going to be doing in 2-3 sections from now. So if you had the answer on the top, I'm absolutely okay with that answer. It very rarely will happen that this factors further, and I'll talk about it when we get to that point. So I'm not even going to stress about it. I totally did not even think about that. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, didn't even think of that. It absolutely can happen. Yeah. So if you had the answer I circled in red, that absolutely can be considered correct. I was more worried about you doing the problems the correct way than worrying about that final answer, to be honest. I suppose, does anybody else have any other questions from that homework that maybe they want me to go through? Okay. I absolutely don't mind. I can do this any day. So if you guys have some questions that don't feel right to you, or whatever it is, I'll absolutely go through them with you guys at the beginning. Okay, so then let me go back to our notes. So the factoring that we did yesterday was called factoring by greatest common factor. That means you purposely look to see what they have in common. And there are different kinds of factoring. So today, there is no correct name for today's. I call today's FOIL factors. And you'll see why in a second. So if you are given the information on the left, you're going to be expected to come up with the information on the right. And once you learn the method, it's really easy. But it absolutely takes people a little bit to get the method to click in their head. So that's more what today is about. We're going to be doing this same method for a couple days, and you'll kind of see how. So if we have x squared plus 7x plus 10, this would have been the answer if we FOILed out x plus 5 and x plus 2. Now what we're trying to do is we're going to try to figure out how to look at x squared plus 7x plus 10 and know the answer was x plus 5 and x plus 2. And again, it doesn't matter which order you write them. Like you can write x plus 2 and x plus 5, it's the same thing. Let's go with John. John, looking at the 5 and the 2, since that's how the answer was made, how do we get a 10 out of a 5 and a 2? And yeah, perfect. And then pretty much along the exact same lines there, John, how do I get a 7 out of the 5 and the 2? Yep. Yeah, I mean, these obviously they're supposed to be pretty straightforward and easy questions. But that's actually what we're trying to do. So we are going to focus on the number by itself. And we're going to figure out how can you multiply to get 10. And so we're going to make kind of this little, it's not called a tree, I can't remember the name, ladder I think it's called. So 1 times 10, 2 times 5, and I think that's it. 3, no, 4, no, yeah, this is it. So you're going to look at the ways to multiply to get 10 and pick the pair that adds up to 7. And that's going to be called FOIL factoring. It's basically doing foiling in reverse. Now I have the steps written down, I believe, on the next one. Yes. So we'll do this green one together. And those 2 that I wrote in pink, if you can't read that, I'll translate, Those are the 2 steps we do. We focus on the number that's by itself. And then the information from there is how we pick the 2 numbers. Haroon, which number are we going to try to focus on? Top one. Bottom one, technically, we're not looking at yet. Excellent. Okay. Do you think you can walk me through how you figured out the pairs that make 24? Like there's kind of like a logical way to come up with them. How do you do it? Okay. What would be the first pair we always pick? What times what is 24? First pair should always be, well, that's 100% true. I'll show you how to set it up in an orderly way so that you don't skip any. So what you're saying is absolutely correct, Herman. I could just start listing pairs like this, but what we do is we kind of put them in order so that we don't accidentally skip any. So you're always going to start with 1 times the number. And then the next number we try is 2. And we know it works because it's even. So 24 divided by 2 is 12. Then we try 3. 24 divided by 3 is 8, so that is actually even as well. Then we try 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6, so far every number. Then we try 5. 24 divided by 5 doesn't work. And then the next number to try would be 6. But I don't need to try 6 because I already have 6 up here. And so once I get to the number that's already written, I'm done. So these are going to be my 4 pairs that make up 24. Ella, do you remember how I choose which pair? Okay, over here on step 2, what does it say? Okay, so when I'm looking at this green problem, the x term would be 10x. So I need to choose the pair that adds up to 10. So if I were to look at all the pairs, this is what they add up to. And so then from there, Ella, obviously, what pair am I going to pick? Yep, because 4 and 6 is the pair that adds up to 10, and that's my middle number. Okay, and now this part I didn't totally talk about yet. Once I come up with the 2 numbers that I want, I'm going to be able to write the answer as x and x. Positive 4 and positive 6 are the 2 numbers I'm going to write in the parentheses. And it doesn't matter what order you write them. Sydney, if I wasn't sure if I did this problem right, what could I do to check my work? Good. So you could FOIL out those 2 parentheses to see if you did it right. And I'll just tell you we did. So x squared, 6x and 4x make 10x, and then 24. So this method is definitely, it's got something to learn from it, right? Like how to do it. Once you figure it out, you're going to get really good at it because we're actually going to use it quite a bit throughout the year. And this method where we write down the factors, it absolutely is slow. What's going to happen is after doing a lot of these questions, you get comfortable enough in your head that you can just start thinking of the pairs in your head without writing them down. And so I want you guys to know that if you write down your work for these problems, all good. But a lot of people end up doing these in their head after a little while. So I kind of totally get that for this style problem, not everybody's going to be showing work. Because there's just, I mean, like, that's just the way some people work. And I'm okay with that. If you guys can, I would like you to try these two problems. And 100% use your calculator if you don't know the factors of some number or whatever. But why don't you guys see if you can factor these two problems? I'll even kind of get them started to be filled in. And yes, if you're on the yellow problem already, one of the huge downsides to this method is if you get a number that has a lot of factors, it's stupidly annoying. There's really nothing I can say to make that better. It's what happens with certain numbers. Alex, I don't know if you've got the one in red done or not. Do you think you could walk me through it, or I could help you and, whatever? Oh, no problem, Alex. How about you, Ben? Are you able to speak today? Absolutely, Haroon. How about you, Desmond? Do you think you could help me out with the red? Okay, thanks. How did you do the one in red? Okay. So did you kind of do it in your head somewhat, or did you write them down? Okay, no, that's all right. That's fine. That works. So when you looked at the 12 and you knew that 3 times 4 adds up to 7, and then that kind of was your pair right away. 100% that method works. If you can think of the two numbers in your head right away, just write them down. If you couldn't think of the 3 and the 4 in your head, then you basically just kind of have to make this little chart. But absolutely, nice job. Okay, Haroon, do you think you could walk me through the yellow one? Okay. I know this one has a ton. Yep. Nope, that's perfect. Okay, good. I'm glad you brought that up. Good. Nice. That's perfect. Okay, so what Haroon said, 100% is okay. If you guys start listing the numbers and you get to the correct combo, you don't have to keep listing them. Like I'm putting them up here just to kind of show you guys the full process. But like if you guys are doing this problem on your own and you realize that 4 and 15 works, you don't have to go any further. You figured out the pair that works. And I am definitely okay with you guys doing that. Very nice. If you guys could you give me kind of a quick indication how you feel like this is going right now like 0 to 5. Because we're going to kind of go to the little next step further. Okay. I mean, I kind of thought that was where a lot of people were at. And I don't want you to, I know sometimes putting it in the chat, I know can be kind of anxious if you're not feeling like you're doing great, but, okay. Don't forget that, if you guys don't want to write something in the chat because you don't want other people to see it, don't forget that you can always just put it in the chat, but then make it a direct message to me, because then I'm the only one that sees it. But then you can still kind of give me feedback, and you don't have to be embarrassed or worried about other people seeing it, because I do like to know if people are having trouble with something so that I can kind of know where to go over. Okay, well, let's go to the next step harder. Nora, why is this one slightly harder? What's different? Yeah, perfect. Okay. Do you have any thoughts on how to approach that, or do you want me to kind of just walk us through the first one totally? I sure can. Okay. I didn't know if you guys remembered seeing this from before or not. Okay, so we've got negative signs, and that can happen anywhere actually. So I'm still going to approach it the exact same way. I'm going to look at the 40. Now, what I neglected to cover up above is 1 and 40 isn't the only way to make 40. I could also take -1 and -40, and that multiplies to make 40. So when you start seeing negative signs in the problem, you're going to have to kind of keep in mind that that's a possibility. Like the problems we had up above, everything was positive, so you just don't even have to worry about negatives. But like on this one, we do. So what it kind of does is it doubles the amount of possibilities. Absolutely annoying. I get it. What you can do is you don't have to write them twice if you don't want. Like you can just remember that there's positives and negative versions of each. So everybody's kind of different. I know some people are going to need to write it out. And so write it out if you want. If you don't feel like you need to write it out, you don't have to. So I'm just going to write out all the possibilities, positives and negatives. And then from here, I'm going to find the combo that makes -13. And what are we at? -5 and -8 looks like it makes -13. So it makes the problems slightly harder, but it still is the exact same thing. And instead of me writing plus a number, I'm going to put minus. And that's going to be the only difference. So that is kind of nice about these problems. They're all done the same way. Does anybody want me to leave that up there for a minute? Like maybe I'm going too fast to copy things down? Okay. I'm just going to put these two up. I think you guys are probably at the place where you can just try them on your own. Why don't you see if you can do, I'll make some space here. Why don't you guys just see if you can try both of these? Honestly, this is all the more complicated it can get today. So if you can handle these two, you're absolutely good. So take a couple minutes, try these two. Is there anybody that's feeling pretty confident about the one in purple that wants to volunteer for it? Instead of me just calling on random people? Okay, Gracie, do you think you got the one in purple? Or, I mean, is there something you want me to help you with on it too? Or I certainly could. Okay, you're just not sure. Okay, all right. Well, I can definitely help you with that part. Okay, what did you do? Perfect. And you chose those two numbers because why? But you're correct. Good. And then they multiply to positive 6. So then your answer was? Good. That's it. That's perfect. I mean, it feels kind of weird to do these problems, but that's correct. That's good. And I'll say it again, but you guys can put these in whatever order you want. Like, it's still correct. Nice job. Nice job. So the yellow one is different. And I didn't say anything about the yellow one, but I kind of wanted to see if somebody would get it. Does anybody think they got the yellow one? It's slightly different. Or maybe, who hasn't been called on yet today? Sadie? Sadie, what's different about the yellow one than the ones we've done before, maybe? How's it? Okay, good, good. So this number that we're multiplying to is negative. Did you figure out what to do with that, or do you want me to kind of do it? Very nice, very nice. That's exactly right. So like negative 18, we'd have 1 and negative 18, or negative 1 and positive 18. So you're going to have one of each time. So on a problem like this, I would actually kind of expect probably a lot more people to write down the numbers, because it's a little bit harder to do this one in your head. It's just, for whatever reason, it makes it harder to do in your head. But now that I've been writing down the combos, I see that negative 2 plus 9 would add up to positive 7. And so that's going to be my pair for this combination. Because negative 2 and positive 9 multiply to be negative 18, but then add to be 7. Okay, so these last two, 100% are as hard as you're going to get today. If you can, when you're practicing the homework, try practicing them in your head. I say that because doing the things in your head just kind of basically gets your head working better. You know, like doing a lot of computations in your head, practicing it is what gets you better. Is what gets you better at actually like being more comfortable with doing the computations and everything. So there's nothing wrong with writing these out. What I'm hoping you guys are going to do is I'm hoping you're going to be able to do some in your head, and then maybe like this yellow one. If you can't think of a combination in your head, then start writing them down to figure out the two numbers. That's probably the best way to approach the homework today, because being good at this will help you with the other things we're doing. Okay, so I'm actually done today. Like, So it does matter what. So I got a question that said, does it matter what pair you get and how do you know what pair to use? So it does matter which pair you pick. Like if I'm looking at this very last one, 2 and 9 is the number we figured out. It does matter which one has the negative sign and which one has the positive sign. So in that case, it does matter which pair we choose. So -2 plus 9 would be 7. 2 and -9 would be -7. So I wouldn't want to pick that pair because this is positive. And then like 1 and 18 obviously don't make the right number either. So I purposely have to take the factors of this last number and then find which pair multiplies and then adds up to the middle number. So it's kind of like you need to find the right two numbers that work both ways. And this is kind of a good logical way to do it. I don't know. This lesson was actually kind of perfect for a 1-hour class, and I know we're doing 75-minute classes right now. So 100% some of our future lessons are going to go a lot longer. But today's is very straightforward. Today's is absolutely more important about practicing the problems and getting them down really well in your head. So at this point, I'm kind of done teaching. I absolutely will stay on here for a while longer so that if some of you guys are practicing these, if you're getting stuck, you can just kind of quickly come on Zoom and I can help you out if you want. But otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if you're done with your homework in 20-25 minutes. So I guess I'm done today. Appreciate you guys coming. But I'll stay on here for a while more because I wouldn't be surprised if you're doing your homework and maybe you forget one little step in your head or something like that. So if you guys can, practice the homework right now so that you get it ingrained in your head. Otherwise, you're welcome to leave, whenever you want. But like I said, I'll stay on here for a while more to help you guys out with whatever. Yeah.